Notre Dame fans, Notre Dame fans, Notre Dame fans. I'm Tyler Horka. That's Jack Sobel. We are with blueandgold.com, Blue and Gold Illustrated at Wallace Wade Stadium in Durham, North Carolina, where the Notre Dame Fighting Irish just beat the Duke Blue Devils 21-14. If you're watching this video, you watched the game. Maybe you didn't. Maybe we are breaking the news to you, and what news that would be because, man, Jack, I wouldn't say for 58 minutes or whatever before Notre Dame got the ball with the chance to win the game there, and we'll talk about that 2-minute drill type of drive that Notre Dame eventually won the game on. But it definitely got to a point in this game where it felt like Notre Dame was going to lose, and especially there before they got the ball. They started that 2-minute drill at the 95, or they needed to go 95-yard line. It's midnight, guys. They needed to go 95 yards to win the game. They were at their own 5-yard line, and they did it against all odds because, Jack, tell everybody what was happening before then. The Notre Dame offense didn't look good tonight until it did, and eventually Notre Dame won the game.
Yeah, didn't look good is an understatement. The Notre Dame offense, frankly, and I think they would admit themselves, like they look terrible. Yeah. They had pre-snap penalties. A post-snap penalty on the last drive. Tobias Merriweather pushing off a defensive back. The receivers weren't getting open. We have the view from the press box, and Sam Hartman, it looked like he was holding the ball maybe longer than they should. I don't think so. I think no one was open the whole game except for Mitchell Evans. He had 6 receptions for 134 yards. He was open. He was making some great catches.
And sometimes he wasn't open.
Yeah, sometimes he wasn't open. He caught the ball anyway. But the Notre Dame offense, a throw to Evans, a throw to Rico Flores, who finally got involved and would catch a 2-point conversion later. Yep. And then the penalty, pass to Estime, 2 incomplete passes, and then Sam Hartman, the comment that stood out for Marcus Freeman in the press conference was Hartman really learned from the 4th and 1 that he didn't convert last week. When it's 4th down and he's scrambling, he's got to get the first. He took a hit. I don't know if he necessarily needed to take a hit. I think he might have gotten the first down anyway. But I'm standing over on the side, and I'm thinking there's no way he should scramble. He's a good athlete, but he's not like one of those athletic quarterbacks like the Riley Leonard on the other side was. I'm like, no way this should happen. But he had room. He was decisive. He took advantage, and he got it. And Estime scores, I think, on the next play.
Yeah, depth perception is tough when you're down here where we were. We were literally standing a couple yards that way, and yeah, I'm thinking the same thing as you, Jack. It's like, no way, because you see it all the time where quarterback thinks he has room. He's like, okay, I'm going to scramble for this. And these are college football players, man. They're good athletes. Duke still has some really good athletes on that side of the ball, and space just condenses, and all of a sudden the room that you thought you had is no longer there, and the game ends. If Sam Hartman didn't pick up 17 yards on 4th and 16, the game ends. But he did pick up 17 yards, and I thought it was a smart scramble too, because obviously Duke Notre Dame is not the only team that goes rush 3, drop 8, by the way, because that's basically what Duke did. And 4th and 16, it's cover. Do not let the opposition get to that the yard to gain, the line. And Sam Hartman lets his receivers go deep. He's looking, and you could tell there was a moment there where he's like, I'm going to go. And even I think it was brought up in the post-game press conference where it looked like he pump-faked, and Sam Hartman couldn't tell you. He was like, I don't know if I pumped. I was just in the moment feeling it. There was a little slight moment of hesitation that might have even drew the defense further back than it already was. Smart play. The dude's a warrior. Didn't have his best game. As Jack mentioned, the wide receivers weren't getting open, but then there were a couple instances where they were. And I remember a miscommunication to Rico Flores where he threw the back shoulder and Flores was running more seam route toward the middle of the field. I think he missed a wide open Rico Flores earlier in the game as well. So it wasn't perfect from Hartman, but when winning time rolled around, the Notre Dame offense looked like it had in those first 4 games when they were scoring 40 points. I know it hasn't looked that way the last 2 weeks, but winning time rolled around, Sam Hartman won the game. As you mentioned, Audric Estime run the game. The irony in that for me, Jack, is Notre Dame is literally – so they spiked the ball after the Hartman run, and then you got a down or 2 to work with, really probably only the 1, and then you don't spike it again. You just run the field goal team out there and test your luck with Spencer Schrader, who went 1 for 2.
2 for 3.
2 for 3 on the night. You don't want any game to end on the leg of a kicker, but sometimes it's like that, and that's what Notre Dame was setting up for. Audric Estime called game. And even that was crazy in its own, because we talk about the struggles for Hartman. The Notre Dame running game struggled too all night.
Yep.
Before that touchdown, the biggest Notre Dame rushing play of the game was a fake punt for Jeremiah Love. Just what did you see from the Notre Dame offense to get to that point? And like, it was so unexpected because we hadn't seen anything like that all night.
Yeah, I mean, I feel dumb because I had an article come out this morning. I guess yesterday
can
morning
run
now.
on anybody.
Yeah, that titled it why the Notre Dame offensive line believes they can run on anyone, and like they had reason to believe they could run on anyone because they were running on anyone. Ohio State's a good defense, and they like pretty consistently averaged five and a half, a little under 5, I think, yards per carry. They wound up with 5 yards per carry tonight, and Notre Dame has done this before where they kind of get stuffed the whole game and then rip off 2 30-yard runs to pad the yards per carry. But, I mean, they really just kept battling. They kept going Estime up the middle. It wasn't working. And then they do it in the last drive, and Estime finds a seam, and he takes it from there.
We should note that, and look, it's 12:15, I believe, on the dot. Have we mentioned that Jaden Thomas and Jaden Greathouse did not play tonight? How much do you think that affected just Notre Dame's overall game plan, one, and then lack of execution once they got between the white lines, perhaps?
Oh, so much. Jaden Thomas, he's their veteran wideout. He's so reliable. Good for 4 catches, 60 yards most games this season. Jaden Greathouse, I thought he was set to have a bigger role the rest of the season. He still is. We believe he should be. He has at least a chance to play, if not likely to play next week. Thomas as well. They should get him back soon. But those two are such a big part of this Notre Dame offense. It's 2 of their 3 leading receivers. Yep. They missed them bad tonight.
We should say that Marcus Freeman said he expects both of those guys back from their hamstring strains against Louisville next week, so that's huge news because the Notre Dame offense is completely different when those guys are on the field. Let's talk about 2 more things before we wrap this up. The defense. We have to get to the defense because in a game that ended 21-14, that is all defense right there. And, Jack, you're going to be writing about this guy at blueandgold.com. Howard Cross. You got the numbers in front of you, but I think I know them off the top of my head. 13 total tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, a sack, 2 forced fumbles, including the one that essentially sealed this game. We should tell you guys that Audric Estime, he scores with 31 seconds left. Duke gets the ball back. They might have even had a timeout or 2. And you're thinking, man, a big play from Riley Leonard, and all of a sudden, Hail Mary, like they're in a position to score. Howard Cross said, nope, I'm going to end this thing right here.
Howard Cross was unbelievable. The craziest part is, like, after the game, Howard Cross is telling us he's got a bad sinus infection.
Those are not fun.
And he can barely breathe on a few plays. And he hits 13 tackles in and of itself by a defensive tackle is insane. Then you look at the disruption, the forced fumbles. Notre Dame finally recovers a fumble.
Yeah.
First of the year, they had 10 opponent fumbles. I think like 8 of them were forced, 2 of them were unforced, something like that. Hadn't recovered a single one of them. That's just statistically, it's so improbable. Yeah. And Howard Cross III gets through. Recovers a fumble. Nana Osafo-Mensah, after the game, we saw them coming back into the tunnel. Right. Tapping him on the shoulder, like his name is Howard Cross III. That is his name, and he had an incredible night. Played almost the entire game. They were rotating maybe a bit more than they did last week, but still not a lot. Yeah. Cross was just unbelievable tonight.
Here's where I want to take this big picture. Because of the defense, and I told you this in the press box right up there during the game, even when it was looking a little hairy for Notre Dame, this is a defense that can keep Notre Dame in any game, even when the Irish are playing as poorly as they were. And for a team that is now 5-1, that's important because you look at the landscape of college football, I think, and this was a number 17 undefeated Duke team that Notre Dame just played, a really good quarterback, Riley Leonard. The college football playoff is still on the table for Notre Dame, even when the offense looks like that, because the defense looked like that. I mean, Louisville coming up, then USC, obviously. If they win those 2 games, and USC is going to be a different beast. But the thing is, USC's got a bad defense. Notre Dame has a good defense. That game is in South Bend. I think that's a winnable game for Notre Dame just based on the way I've seen this defense play really all season, particularly the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, the thing that stands out about the Notre Dame defense is, like, we saw it against an incredible receiver core in Ohio State. Mm-hmm. They just don't give up anything over the top. Yeah. Like, can you remember the Notre Dame defense giving up a big gain through the air over the top? Like,
and there were some big gains from Duke tonight, but they weren't that type where, burned, touchdown. Yeah.
It just does not happen against these quarterbacks and these safeties. We got to give them credit, too. Just does not happen. And when we've said this season, like, Notre Dame has been looking for that one super disruptive defensive lineman who is going to get home multiple times a game. Howard Cross was that guy tonight.
Yeah, from the interior.
I mean, that is the key to everything. If he or anyone plays like that,
JJB, let's shout out.
yeah, Javante Jean-Baptiste as well. First half a sack in a Notre Dame uniform, pass breakup as well, read an RPO. Yeah. Those two guys were really, really good tonight. And when the defensive line plays like it did, the whole defensive line was pass rushing really well tonight. When that happens, the secondary is going to take care of everything else, and Notre Dame's really tough to score on.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, that's going to keep Notre Dame in games. And then it didn't happen against Ohio State, obviously. But when you have number 10 leading your offense, you can win ball games that way too, and he did it again tonight. So just an incredible game. I'm standing here staring at the seats, and I remember literally the Duke student section kind of creeping down toward the field. Jack, there's a bunch of neon guys wearing neon coats, stadium crew, just whatever you want to call the guys.
Field storming watch.
Yeah, field storming watch, basically. You see those neon shirts, okay, they're expecting people to come onto the field. Notre Dame didn't let it happen. Season is still alive. You could sense the relief, the euphoria. Like, I don't know if Notre Dame was looking big picture as soon as this game ended, but you got the sense that this was something big. Jack, we were standing there when everyone was coming off the field. What was that moment like? I know you mentioned the JJB Howard Cross thing, but it was everybody. It was Marcus Freeman pumping his fist and Sam Hartman giving a big let's go. I mean, it was a moment tonight.
Yeah, it's really simple. Notre Dame saved its season tonight. Yep. Notre Dame, with the loss, would have been completely out of the college football playoff picture. They are not anymore. They have a Louisville team that looked very beatable last night. Next week, and then another big one against USC, and that's going to be pretty much as hyped as the Ohio State game was. If Notre Dame can take care of business against Louisville and big picture win that, you're talking, what else do we need to happen?
Exactly. So this is the last thing we'll leave you with. As bad as it looked at times tonight, this is technically still a really good win for Notre Dame over a really good, previously undefeated number 17 Duke team. You take those in college football. And if you're a betting person, Notre Dame covered the spread. So we will see you next week. As Jack said, from Louisville, we will both be down there to see the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the Louisville Cardinals. Until then, I'm Tyler Horka. That's Jack Sobel.